Broadcasting across California, California's only statewide political show. You're watching The Issue Is.
Welcome to a very special edition of The Issue Is. I'm Alex Michelson, and with us this week is the longest-serving governor in the history of California. Jerry Brown is here via Skype from his ranch in Colusa County, where our show airs on both ABC 7 and Fox 20. In 1975, Brown became California's 34th governor at just 36 years old. In 2019, he left the job as California's 39th governor at 80 years old. He's also served as California's Secretary of State, Attorney General, Chair of the Democratic Party, Mayor of Oakland, and more. Over 5 decades of service. Governor Jerry Brown, his life story is profiled in Man of Tomorrow, The Relentless Life of Jerry Brown. It's a new book by Jim Newton of the LA Times. Governor Jerry Brown, welcome to The Issue Is for the very first time. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, great to be here.
I got to admit, Governor, when we started this show 2 years ago, you were the first person on our list that we wanted to have on the show. And we've been trying for 2 years, so the day has finally come.
Well, that must be someone in my office.
Yeah. So hopefully it'll be worth the wait, right? So when we originally scheduled this conversation, you were supposed to be here and we were supposed to talk a lot about that book that's just coming out this week. And we'll talk about that book in a moment. But now, of course, we're at this time of extraordinary peril for our state in the midst of this unprecedented coronavirus crisis. You've been through so many crises over the years. Help us. What's your advice? What should we be doing right now?
Well, I think the governor and all the people that work with him are doing everything they can. The problem is we don't have enough testing. And I think the governor is trying his best to get more tests. He's ramping them up. But, 30,000 tests a day. We need a couple 100,000 at least. And if we're going to have kids go back to school, we're going to have a lot of them tested. Now, how do we get the tests? There's only one way. The President of the United States has to invoke the War Powers Act and mobilize American industry. So without any kind of rivalry or competition, they get down to the business of producing good tests, quick tests, reliable, and get the results back much quicker. The President has abdicated. He's thrown the ball to the governors, who can do a lot and have a real role to play like the mayors. But at the end of the day, we need a commander-in-chief like Roosevelt, who one day after Pearl Harbor said, no more private passenger cars. America's making Liberty ships, airplanes, and tanks. And we can put a ship in the water in a matter of days. Why can't America put 10 million tests out in a matter of days or weeks or even a month? We're not.
So why can't they? And why isn't the president doing that?
I think because it is, and I want to be fair about this, I think they believe that abstention, leaving the marketplace, the profit incentive to do the work. But in time of crisis, like war or pandemic, we need the mobilization of the country under the direction of the commander-in-chief. Anything less than that is going to be a start and stop operation. California, other states will open up, then the virus will flare up again, then we'll close, stop and start. It'll be devastating to the economy and very, very difficult to manage. There's only one man who has the key, and the key is currently Donald Trump, and so far he's not opening the lock.
You were part of a coronavirus advisory board to Governor Newsom. What's your advice to that panel right now and your advice to the governor?
Look, we have a lot of people who want to work, so we have these factories. California has scientists that invented techniques for genetic engineering. Certainly we can get a swab and get some chemical reagent so that we can test to find out who's got it and who doesn't. As long as we don't know, since this virus is invisible and is carried by half the people with no symptoms, you never know who carries it. You got to test over and over again. And you have to be relentless about that. You cannot pussyfoot around, or you're going to have this virus hanging on, destroying the economy, killing more people, and making more people suffer the horror. So, yeah, this is really serious, and we, America, in the guise of our president, because he's the only one that can mobilize industry, we're not doing what we need to do.
Do you miss being in there at a moment like this? And if you were in there, is there anything you would do differently than what's being done now?
Well, no, I don't miss being there because I can't quite see how we're going to avoid so much trouble. So I think these governors have to go to the White House either digitally or in person with the proper protection and break the China. Get Trump to take the action that we have to take. Science tells us. We need right now from our president and the Congress a fiscal investment, trillions of dollars. First of all, they got to help people who can't work to support their families. And then secondly, we have to invest and create the demand by investing in infrastructure and jobs, because 70% of the American economy is consumers buying stuff, going to Disneyland, going to restaurants, buying cars and gadgets. Well, that 70% is not buying. Therefore, the only other entity that can equal 70% of the American people is the American government. And we know it can work. Worked in World War II, worked in the Depression. Now, we need a new Roosevelt. If Trump wants to do that, great. If he doesn't want to do that, we got to get somebody else who will. It's that simple. I don't want to sound partisan, but you asked me, and this is not a matter of politics, it's a matter of fact and science.
You know, Governor Newsom, when I've asked him about President Trump, has said that the president has delivered everything that he's asked for, and he's grateful for the leadership of President Trump on this. Do you agree with that, or you don't?
Well, he's gotten what he's asked for. I mean, yes, he gave some money, and he's given hundreds of billions to California. Hallelujah. That's good, but that doesn't get the job done.
When I interviewed Gavin Newsom during the campaign back in 2018, and I asked him specifically about you, and I want to play for you what he said about you and then ask you what you would say about him. Take a look. What are the lessons you've sort of learned from watching him?
Well, the guy's a master. He's the guy who invented chess. He's Kasparov. I mean, this guy's at a different level. We're playing checkers. He's 5-6 moves ahead. What makes no sense in the immediate moment, all of a sudden presents a new perspective 6 months, a year later. He's just a remarkable human being.
What do you think of that, and how would you describe him?
I would say I accept the nomination. Sounds good. Secondly, what I said about Newsom, he's got a lot going for him. He's bright. He's got experience. He's mayor of a big, complicated city. And he's got a lot of good people around him, and he's got all this advice in the world. The big challenge is the cards he's being dealt are very difficult cards to play, even if you're Superman.
How do you think he's doing?
He's doing good. He's doing good. But are we doing good?
Right.
Is America doing good? Given all the factors, and that's another story.
You talked also about President Trump a lot already, but just want to sort of hammer home on the President Trump aspect of this. We saw this week a Republican likely to win in California's 25th district. Are you concerned that President Trump is going to win again in November and then not do a lot of the stuff that you just said? And if so, what would your advice be for the Democratic Party right now?
Good point. This is not clear who's going to win. What should the Democrats do? I would just say the candidate's Biden, and Joe Biden's got to present that Rooseveltian alternative crisply, effectively, and eloquently now and every day between now and the election.
We're looking at sort of a fiscal cliff here in California. You have worked so hard to create this big surplus. You've been such a fiscal hawk in so many instances. If we do have to make cuts, which we probably do, what should be cut? Should high-speed rail be cut? Should pensions be cut? How do we make this work? How do we balance our budget?
Well, first of all, you use that nice rainy day fund that we built up. Secondly, you don't cut high-speed rail. You don't cut investments in roads, in bridges, in hospitals, in schools. What we need is to invest in broadband in all the rural communities. We can't let our rural hospitals go bankrupt. So you got to borrow and you got to invest, and that's going to take the federal government helping us.
All right, Governor, we're going to have to take a pause right there. But coming up next, we're going to talk about you, including the impact of your father, the other Governor Brown, and how he shaped your worldview. Stay with us. More of The Issue Is right after this. We continue our conversation with Jerry Brown, the four-term governor of California. Governor, we want to talk a little bit about you, specifically a couple new books that have come out about you. We want to put those up on the screen. The first one is called Man of Tomorrow. It's a book by Jim Newton of the LA Times, just came out this week. The other one, we want to put that up on the screen as well, an exceptional book called The Browns of California, the family dynasty that transformed a state and shaped a nation. That came out last year. I've got my copy of that. I've ordered the Jim Newton book, which I'm excited to get in the mail soon. But let's talk for a moment about why you did not make the decision to write an autobiography. Some politicians, they get out of office, they make a lot of money, they put together these autobiographies that are very self-referential. Why did you decide to let somebody else tell your story?
Well, I've tried. I've written hundreds of pages, so it may come out someday. One thing I find out, politics is not as heroic as I would want. You talk about General Patton, or you talk about someone who saves children from a burning building. There's a drama there. There's heroics. But when you talk about politicians, I mean, what do? They want to get their mug on television. They go around talking to wealthy people, trying to get money from them. They hang out with industries and lobbyists that can finance their campaigns. They put out a lot of press releases. They do the obvious because they got to keep half the people happy. So when you try to sit to a book and say, okay, let's be deep here. What is the meaning of it all? What is authentic? What is going to ring? What is going to touch someone's soul? There's not as much there as you might think, and that's why political biographies are very rare.
Well, I mean, I think your story is about as fascinating as you can. One of the aspects that's so fascinating about your story is you're not the first Governor Brown. Of course, your father was the two-term governor of California as well. What do you think is the most important lesson that he taught you that shaped your worldview as governor?
I don't think there's one lesson. There's a lot of lessons. Since my father had a recession at the end of his term, just like his predecessor, the lesson is when we get in a recession, California gets a deficit. If it's a big deficit, it's a big deficit. And people say, what the hell did the governor do? He played with the books? He didn't manage things right. One of the factors of being a governor, dodge recessions if you can. Dodge deficits. I wanted to give a little formula in a bumper sticker, dodge deficit. That would be my blue and white bumper sticker for a candidate for governor.
You've also talked about politics, and I think you view politics in some moral terms that maybe other people don't. You have, of course, Jesuit training. You were almost a priest. How do you think that changed the way that you maybe see the nature of politics itself that some of your other colleagues did not?
Well, interestingly, by the way, that's my grandmother right there next to my father, and between my father and my sister. And where I'm talking from right now is about 300 feet from the first mountain house where my grandmother grew up. That the quest for God or for ultimate meaning it's a profoundly important quest. My background has inclined me to go to the most fundamental, most profound issues. That's why climate change is captured my imagination, because it's so profound, it's so irreversible, and it affects so many human beings and so much of nature.
You started as governor at 36 years old. You ended as governor at 80. What did the 36-year-old not realize that the 80-year-old did? I mean, obviously that's a whole lifetime of experience, but sort of the biggest thing if you had to pick one.
Well, I would have to say that managing, well, first of all, things aren't that easy to do. You know, things everything is it's harder. Getting stuff done is more difficult than you think. Number two, that everybody is part right, part wrong. Everybody's got flaws. I don't care whether it's Trump or Obama or Biden or myself or you. There's a lot of flaws in human beings. So that's why these organizations are imperfect. And that's why a good understanding of what's realistic is profoundly important.
And one of the other things you had that second time around that you didn't have the first time around was your wife, Ann Gust. How did she change you?
I don't know that she has. She'd like to, but I still, my flaws and my other habits are still pretty much intact. My wife, she makes up for my deficiencies, and I would say that's what's happened. I wouldn't say things altered that much. And we get along very well because we're different, but we're very compatible. Well, I would say complementary, by no means the same.
We're going to have to take another pause, but we want to let you know that you can watch more with Governor Brown at youtube.com/Alex Michelson and find out more about our show on our website, theissueisshow.com. Also send us an email, theissueis@foxtv.com. We continue our conversation with Jerry Brown, the former governor of California. You are at your ranch in Colusa County, California. Tell us a little bit about what life is like there for you and a little bit more about sort of what you're doing these days.
Well, I'm talking to you over Skype, so that's good. Also, yeah, there are my two dogs. They're in the next room and they'd be barking like crazy. You see that, yeah, now sweet. So I have things I'm doing. I've started an institute, the California-China Climate Institute at Berkeley, UC Berkeley, and that's just getting off the ground. We've had some dialogues with China. We want to get California, with all that we've learned working with provinces in China, to reduce carbon emissions. So that's an important thing. I'm also the chairman of the Oakland Military Institute, a school of about 650 kids, 6th grade through 12, a college prep school in collaboration with the California National Guard. And then I'm the executive chairman of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, and they put out weekly publications through the internet. And we also put out the Doomsday Clock, which tells you how close we are to doomsday. So we're 100 seconds from the apocalypse because of the danger of a nuclear miscalculation. So that's what I'm doing. But I'm also chasing rattlesnakes when they show up outside my door, and trying to keep my dog from eating the rabbits. So actually, it's a very exciting life. People are very nice out here, and even though my closest neighbor is a mile and a half away, my second neighbor is probably 10 miles away, people are closer even when they're in the next apartment. I have found that living out here in Colusa County.
We have to take one more pause in our conversation, but up next, Governor Brown looks back and looks forward. We're talking legacy and the future of the state when we come back. As we wrap things up with Governor Jerry Brown, two last key questions for you. One, what do you see as your legacy? What do you want people to think of when they think of Jerry Brown?
I think you should think about whatever comes to your mind. I'm not going to try to guide you on that, but I would say overall, my most important work and what I think I did more of and more successfully was work on climate change. The fact that we have 30% renewable electricity, the fact that we have half the electric cars and zero-emission cars in the country, the fact that we have and had the first building efficiency standards, which I launched when I was governor the first time, and they've improved every 10 years since then. This is an area that is global and it's local.
Do you have any big disappointment or one thing you were like, I wish I got that done?
To be honest, I don't feel too disappointed. I feel very blessed in my where I am right now. So there's a lot of good things. I really appreciate all the people I've met. And I've got a lot of things I want to do. And so, yeah, have I made mistakes? You bet I made mistakes. And you're not going to get me to admit them, and I'm not going to elaborate on them. But I hopefully have learned from them. And I'll make more mistakes before I get finished.
And last question, the book about you is called Man of Tomorrow. What do you see as California's tomorrow?
That's a good question. I never could have dreamed that Silicon Valley would turn into what it became. In the explosion of Apple started, I think, when I was just starting to run for governor. Qualcomm, Google, Intel, Facebook, all these things are amazing. So what can we do going forward? I think it's automatic. Maybe we'll solve this pandemic. We'll get a vaccine. There's a lot of things that will get a better hold on climate change. We'll figure out better battery technology. We'll find out how to sequester carbon. There's a lot we can do. And so that's very exciting. Now, things will also go downhill because we're very, we've got a lot of costs. We have a lot of people without a lot of income. We've got a lot of inequality and a lot of discontent and a lot of challenges. So I'd say, like life always, it's open. And we're not destined one way or the other. We have a lot of upside, but we've got enough downside to keep us worried and should keep us worried. Or as I think St. Paul said, we should work out our salvation in fear and trembling. With some optimism and courage and exuberance and zest. That would be my formula.
Let's leave it there. We always like to play music on this show. This is your first time on the show, so we chose a song that made us think about you. This is California Dreamin' that we have. The little mamas and the papas. As we thought, this is fitting for you as somebody who's made so many dreams come true in this state. And California has made so many dreams come true for you as well. Governor Jerry Brown, this is one of my favorite conversations we've ever had on this show. We waited 2 years. It was worth the wait. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry Brown. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching The Issue Is. See you next time.